On the next episode of The Entrepreneur's Journey, I sit down with Chris Jones, serial entrepreneur, best-selling author of Relentless AF and expert EOS implementer. Chris isn't just relentless, he's relentless and fun AF. That's why I was smiling. We'll be talking about how to leverage your unique ability in new ways and how to shift your mindset to surge forward while everyone else is running for cover. If you're stuck, stalled, or ready to break through, you're not going to miss this one. Let's get on with the show.
We're the ones who dare to dream. We won't let anyone hold us back. We'll take the road, let's travel by and build our empire piece by piece. We've got our dreams and we've got a plan. We're not afraid to take a stand. We'll face the risks and embrace the fear, cause we know that success is near. There will be times when we'll fall down, but we'll get up and turn it around. We're entrepreneurs, we're not afraid to lose. We'll keep moving forward, we got nothing to prove.
Welcome to another episode of The Entrepreneur's Journey, because at the end of the day, Joseph Campbell, he gave us the hero's journey, and I realized that we are all heroes of our own journey. And to be an entrepreneur, well, it takes a very special type of person to be an entrepreneur. Part sadist, maybe, definitely masochist, someone peculiar. I'll talk about that in my little quote. But I'm absolutely thrilled to have Chris Jones on the show. Chris is, he's an expert implementer at EOS, but a little bit of a legend as well. Me, I'm, as they say, a legend in my own mind. He's a legend in his own time. His expert designation, I always meet people and they're experts, and I go, well, I kind of thought of you as an expert anyway. And what we notice is a lot of the coaches that are with EOS are really leaders, born leaders. And as Tom Peters once said, a leader's job is to create more leaders. So, like rabbits producing offspring, leaders are producing more leaders. But enough about analogies. I always like to start with my why statement. As a teacher, facilitator, and coach, I help high aspiring entrepreneurs, owners, and their leadership teams get unstuck, return to growth, and become forever change. A lot of it lives in this framework of EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System. If you want to know more about it, a couple of QR codes where you can actually take the organizational checkup and see how you stand up, how you stock, right? Are you running your business, or is your business running you? Or even get the first chapter of Traction written by founder Gino Wickman. I don't know, only 2 million copies are in circulation at the moment. So, there are a few billion to go. I think we got to get our acts together. We got to get, there's work to be done. There's work to be done, jobs to be done. Now, I've been sharing a little quote, a quotable, a little nugget, a bite-sized pearl of wisdom, if I do say so myself. And then I realized I had enough of them that I could actually put a little compilation together. So here's a little bit of a highlight of the journey so far. I think Chris is episode 19. So here's a highlight from some of the ones that have come before. And this is today's quote: entrepreneurship requires the perfect mix of resilience, relentlessness, and the radical pursuit of purpose. I wanted to dig a little bit into the idea of being relentless. In fact, I don't need to do much digging because I'll have Chris coming on the show in just a few moments. I've often spoke about resilience. I just came back from Finland where they talk about sisu. It's ingrained into the very culture of the Finnish people, the idea of resilience. Resilience, it's this ability to actually draw from the pain of the past to make you tougher and stronger and keep going. But there's something different when it comes to being relentless. First of all, there's got to be purpose. There's got to be a goal. There's got to be some kind of a destination. We call it a 10-year target, but there's a relentlessness that I think I'd never really thought about before when it comes to entrepreneurship. This ability just to never give up, never give in, this toughness, this tenacity. Listen, every single one of my guests, I have used the power of either AI or very bad Photoshop to turn them into a superhero. Because as I said, you gotta be kind of crazy. You gotta have a superpower. You've got to, you are the hero of your journey. This is Chris Jones, everyone. To me, he is the incredible Hulk. And he's not green. He's orange. His skin is orange. He's outdoorsy. He's adventurous. You know, he's got this incredible beard, and he goes out there and look, I don't know if he's angry. I'm not going to make him angry. He doesn't seem to ever get angry, but he is a superhero. Chris Jones is a relentless and fun mind shifter that empowers growth, finding the opportunity in something hard fuels his fire like few others. He's started 6 companies, is a best-selling author with his book, Relentless AF, and is an expert EOS implementer, having worked with more than 75 companies over the last 10 years. He's been married to Yolanda for 27 years and has 2 amazing sons, Derek and Trey. I think we might hear about Trey a little bit later. He loves to push his limits and explore the outdoors in sports like downhill skiing and gravel cycling. Welcome to the show, Mr. Chris Jones.
Hey, thanks for having me, Joseph. Good to be here.
Hey, how's the air horn? Just like to build them up.
Yeah, that's right. That's superhero. I don't think I've been in that category before. So
you should see some of the others, but no, I've always I love the idea of actually turning all my guests into superheroes because, again, Joseph Campbell talks about the hero's journey. And I think you kind of have to be a little bit of a superhero to be an entrepreneur, no?
I don't know. I think it's everyone teach their own, I think. I'm glad the whole world isn't entrepreneurs. I think it'd be a lot of chaos. But there's no doubt that there's a power inside, I think, that's required to be on this journey, which can be a little ludicrous at times.
Yeah, I mean, I used to think for a while, that truly you had to be a masochist to be an entrepreneur. Now I'm not so sure that it has to be like that you have to love pain and love inflicting pain on yourself. I'm coming to a realization that there can be pleasure and there can be peace. And that's something I've learned through this EOS experience, that the pursuit of peace might be our ultimate why.
Food for thought.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So Chris, before we get into, the meat and potatoes of some of the topics that normally I would discuss with my guest, we sent our sleuths, our investigators into the field to dig up sordid, dark, and dirty, information on you, and you came up clean. And maybe the reason you came up clean is because you love to jump into cold water, and you do it every day now for 3 minutes at 5 degrees. So we actually have a photo of you from one of your recent cold plunges as well. So Look, I just came back from Finland, and we did it. We were in the sauna. We went into actually a lake, which was 5 degrees. I only have one question, one word, actually. Why? Why do you do this?
Um, well, it honestly, it starts back to a bit of a family tradition. And, not to be, I guess we all find ways to deal with what the card's life has dealt us in different ways. And as a family, we would jump in cold lakes and streams, and like right from a little kid, I did that and did it. But then in particular, my youngest brother and I we'd been on many hiking trips together, and we would cold water swim, and his name was Caleb. And he had he passed away when he was 19.
Oh, I'm
And
sorry. Yeah.
so that's okay. It's part of my journey to learn how to deal. I'd never dealt with death anywhere. And then my brother passed away when I was 24, and I was like, whoa, this is way out of this huge family, and everyone was still around. And so anyway, so we call it a Caleb swim, is the short of it. And so cold water swimming became a way for me to honor and connect with my brother that was no longer here. And so I've been doing this for years. I'd hike up into the mountains into a cold water lake, and I would always jump in. And then I'd talk to my parents, "Oh, I went for a Caleb swim today." And then this like cold water therapy and stuff has become a bit of a thing, and there's health benefits supposedly, and the anecdotal evidence is building. And so I bought a cold water tub for my backyard, and so I jump in every day for 3 minutes, and I learned the breathing techniques around it. And in general, they're saying it makes your cells tougher, more resistant to cold, etc., and resistant to viruses. Pardon me. And I've been doing this daily, pretty much for the last year. Lo and behold, I haven't been sick, knock on wood, in that time frame. But so there's some health benefits, maybe. We'll see.
They are.
But I
I
think the
mean,
other thing that it does. Go ahead.
no, I said there absolutely are. But
Yeah,
before you say your second point, I'm reframing my why with a question mark to a why with an exclamation point,
yeah,
because there is purpose. There
yeah,
truly is a beautiful, beautiful why.
yeah. No, thank you. It matters to me. That's what matters. The other reason that I do it, that I don't want to get in the water every morning. Let's be clear. It is
Mm.
cold AF, and um, there was one day it froze over during the winter. The heating unit stopped working because in the winter it has to heat to keep it from freezing because it's outside. And I broke through the ice with my fist, and then I jumped in anyways. And it was probably 0 or 1 degree. Then it was a little colder. Um, but the reason that I get in, I don't want to get in, and I get in anyways. And in a way, it just kind of creates the mindset of like, it's going to be hard, and I'm going to do it anyways. And at the end, I get out, and I'm super revitalized. It's like taking a cup of coffee or two instantly, and the body kind of gets warm and creates this heat response upon getting out. It's quite invigorating. But it just starts the day. Well, if I can do that, I'm going to do the next thing, and it's going to be hard, and I'm just going to go do it anyways.
I,
So
I,
it's a
I,
mindset.
well, I mean, and we're talking about mindset, and the very interesting little insight there was you've got to heat it up in order to cool it down, or almost this idea. First of all, pain, risk, the entrepreneur experience. What is risky to you may not be risky to me. What is scary to you may not be scary to me. It's all relative at the end of the day. that you think it's cold, it could be colder, right? There's a beautiful idea. I've never even thought of the concept of actually having to heat up something in order to get it to the right temperature, which may be too cold for someone else, and it can be cold.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful story. And yes, I mean, sometimes entrepreneurs just got to do it. One thing that I've encountered as well through my own career is that often we need to be pushed, right, to make the change, to make the leap, to change our mindset, whether it's being laid off or whether it's those force of circumstance, because we live in a comfort zone, and until those times get really, really tough, or we're forced into it, we never know what we're capable of. And
Yep.
I guess that's part of the learning that comes from just something like a cold swim.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, the comfort crisis or whatever, there's been books written about this stuff, and, how do we intentionally challenge ourselves and put ourselves out there? I don't know. I like doing
Well,
it.
well,
Yeah.
I got to tell you, one of the reasons I always put in these fun facts, in fact, in both of my shows, is because I'm a huge believer in what David Brooks calls eulogy virtues, in addition to resume virtues, when you actually get to know the person and get to know the human. But generally, the insights that can come through end up always being relevant to the conversation at hand. And so, I don't know if you've written, maybe your next book is going to be called Take the Cold Plunge, my entrepreneurial journey into the unknown. But it's just a fantastic analogy. I think we're not going to be able to get as much richness from the fact that you rode a bike through the mountains at only 8 years old. But one thing that was curious about it is that you had a full beard at the age of 8, which is super, super weird. And
Yeah.
then, of course, and I had to do some. You have your Canadian Masters track record still stands. We actually have an image from that race. As you can see, AI and this is the first time I've used AI and bad Photoshop, right? So
There you go.
you see, I changed the name to Jones, and there you are turning,
That's
so
crazy. So Johan Blake, who's in that photo, I've actually ran with his cousin
no way.
in Calgary. Yeah, he's dude's fast.
Well,
Yeah.
he might be fast, but you're faster, Chris Jones.
Oh, I don't know about that, but I do like to go fast.
So I want to talk to you a little bit about the concept of relentlessness.
Sure.
Like, what is, there is a dictionary definition, but I want to hear your definition. And ultimately, as we talk about as coaches and
Yeah.
facilitators, we always teach something and provide context around it. So I'd love to hear how you look at your lens of relentlessness and the context that surrounds it.
Yeah, I think it is the undeniable spirit that causes us to get back up off the mat when we've been knocked down. I think especially entrepreneurship is a series of setbacks and crises, mixed with some hopefully a number of victories. And our ability to endure the challenges, endure the crises, endure the setbacks without loss of enthusiasm. Um, what it was, I think it was Churchill.
That's right.
Success is the ability to go from crisis to crisis without loss of enthusiasm,
I love that.
paraphrased.
Mm.
Yeah. How can we just say that's just the next no, let's go to the next thing. What's next?
One of the things that I learned actually, and probably my very first, we call these quarterly get-togethers QCEs, quarterly collaborative exchanges. In fact, it was the very first one after I attended boot camp, was to learn about the conflict triangle, the
Oh,
hero, the villain, and the victim,
yes.
where the victim moves, the hero moves to becomes a coach, the villain becomes the challenger, and the victim becomes the creator. But one of the
Yep.
things that I remembered it so clearly, was the victim is, why do these things happen to me? Why do bad things happen to good people? Why, Alfred E. Newman, right? Why always me? As opposed to just being able to say, instead of lamenting and wallowing in the problem, I'm going to be a part of the solution. How does relentlessness fit into that framework, in your opinion?
Cartman Drama Triangle, actually, I wrote about it in the book. It is a concept I learned about in EO, not EOS, but Entrepreneurs Organization years ago. And, I think the relentless nature which I've gone after things, I think I spent a lot of time trying to solve problems. I mean, that's, the business, my first business started out of a desire to fix a problem. And so as I grew the business and started bringing other people on, well, I just, solve one problem after the next. And I think to the point where people would come to me with teammates. Well, I've got a problem. I'm like, great, here's the solve. And as I started to recognize over time, as it created a reliance on me as the entrepreneur. And then when I saw that Cartman Drama Triangle, I'm like, oh my God, I'm playing the hero. And, the elevated hero is a coach. And started to realize, like, I love to coach as well, and have done. I'm the oldest of 23 first cousins on my mom's side, and the oldest of 3 brothers. And my dad was an incredibly talented coach. My mom's a very good coach. And so I had coaching all around me, and it was part of who I was for sure. And I'd fallen out of like that coach mode when I was solving problems. And so I learned, like, well, if I'm really going to get good at this, I have to redefine success for myself.
Mm.
And so instead of solving the problem as being the success, I had to define, well, the success is actually for me to teach others how to do this. So it's bigger than me. And, I had a great mentor, guy by the name of Doug Mitchell, was just a legend in Canada and the Calgary area. And he was just such a servant leader that I aspired to be like Doug. And I'm like, he's a guy that was going to teach people around him how to be better and give himself to others. And so I started to change my success mindset, redefining success, saying, no, it's not like you were saying, teach other people how to be leaders. That's when I started to become more of a leader myself.
I learned actually this morning. I was in a seminar, and it was all about indirect purpose, in the indirect route. Like, for example, you don't stare at the sun directly, use a prism or a lens. And this was relating to success and happiness and purpose as well. And from a parenting standpoint, as you know, we draw an analogy with the leadership team to being good parents. Parenting came up in the we call it in our happy hour at 8 a.m. in the morning, without Bloody Marys. I'm just going to be clear about that. But there is a book called, and I forget the author's name, called The Good Enough Parent. A concept of, and I think I didn't, I wasn't quite sure about the context, but I think the idea is you've got to be just good enough, almost like we would say 80%, right? 80%, like, or even when we talk about process, what's the 20% of steps to get you 80% of the way there? Good enough to just do enough, but not too much, to be able to give them the platform to be able to run with the ball, to be able to, achieve it for themselves. That's got to be hard to know where that line is.
It's funny you bring up parenting. My wife and I were, my oldest son, and we were talking this morning about this exact thing. And my wife and I went to an author in the parenting world when we became parents. Her name was Barbara Coloroso. And she had some wonderful perspectives on parenting that really resonated with me and helped me as a leader. And one of the things she said is parenting is not efficient. And so, it just the reminder for us to just slow down and not try and get through it fast. And it's exactly to what you're talking about there. And also, like, is it coming from a good place? She also said, like, if your decisions and your actions are coming from a good place, you're going to be okay. You're going to screw stuff up. But if it's coming from a place of love in what you're doing, your kids are going to understand that over time and you're not going to get it all right. And so I think the same thing applies here to us as leaders and helping other leaders understand and helping us coach other leaders. And so we related that back this morning as well of like, hey, leadership is not always efficient in the short term. But as we teach and empower our leaders these things and be patient with them as they develop, it empowers them to do the work in the future. And then I joked, I said, I just hope maybe leadership isn't efficient, but I just hope it doesn't take as long as it did for my kids to learn. And my kid, of
Well,
course, is like, ha ha, very funny.
yeah.
And so we were joking about like that whole piece. It's very real. And the relationship there is definitely, there's some good comparables.
Well, I'll give you one more rally or one more play in this little rally of ours on parenting, relaying what I heard today. So the quote was, "I wish it's like if I knew then what I know now." So it was this idea of I wish I knew then what I know now. I
Yeah.
wouldn't have because then I wouldn't have made so many mistakes as a parent. And the response was, yes, that's true, but you would have made other mistakes. And I loved that quote. This was literally what the lecturer's wife said to him. And it's so true, right? We'll never get it right. It's just never
No.
going to be perfect.
Yeah.
We can go back and do it 100 times, but we'll make other mistakes, won't we?
Yeah. Same as leadership, same as coaching. We're never going to get it all right, and that's okay.
Exactly. Good enough, right?
Mm.
I'm sensing at least the next book of yours called The Good Enough Leader. Or maybe I'll write it. You never know. But you do have a book, and your book is now here's what the beauty of a soundboard, my friend, is I can say relentless as and I can bleep myself, and that's perfect.
That's amazing.
But of course, it doesn't mean that. It means and fun.
Well, it's a little of both. That name actually came about with a leadership group that I was in EO, and we named our forum Relentless AF, and I was part of the creation of the name and the discussion there. And yeah, relentless as fuck was definitely the concept of our group, because we looked around this room of these talented leaders in the room that had accomplished so much and overcome so much, and it was the common thread that bonded us together. So we named the forum that, and then as I was writing the book, I'm like, guys, can I use this name as the title of my book? And of course they were thrilled that that was what I chose. And then in the evolution of understanding and peeling back the onion of writing the book and who am I, the relentless and fun was something I kind of uncovered of like, when I'm truly at my best, I am both relentless and fun. And that was kind of the magic formula for me as a coach, as an implementer, that unlocked sort of my special formula for when I show up as my best.
So one of the questions I typically ask is, what are your 3 uniques? It's part of our tools as well when we actually ask companies for their uniques. Would it be safe to say that one of them is relentless and one of them is fun?
Yeah, I think so. I've never answered this question, but it's a fascinating one. Um, I'd probably say I think it's my three uniques off the top of my head would probably be relentless and fun as the first one. I think an entrepreneur that's been there, done that. It's six companies in now, and I just love that journey. And I think the third one is um, hmm, either it's probably lifelong coach or I don't know, published author, I guess, is unusual, right? I think there's a lot of people. So there's the four. I'd have to whittle it down to three.
Well, you can, we have permission sometimes to break the rules and have four. Um,
Yeah.
let's go back to the two words, to relentless and fun. They don't seem like two bedfellows that normally fit together. The idea of being relentless and fun, salt and pepper. Um, are they paradoxical in a sense? What makes the combination of being relentless and fun work so well for you, or just in general?
Yeah, that was a process for me. There's a writing a autobiography of sorts, to help other people, but there's a therapeutic component to writing the book about what there was for me to write in the book about my own story. And as I was kind of peeling that onion back of like, I was relentless. So, from day one, I was the relentless guy. From a kid, it was really hard to stop me. The riding a bike, the longest day was 110 kilometers at 8 years old. People are like, what? Like, how? I'm like, I don't know. Someone asked me if I do it. I'm like, yeah, of course I'm in. That's for sure who I was. But what I found that wasn't a very healthy
Mm.
way of showing up. Um, I don't know, that sounds judgy, but whatever. I didn't like the way I showed up when it was just like that. It didn't I didn't make for a great teammate on the sports teams I was on because I was too intense. It definitely was a reason why I absolutely had to play next level sports because it drove me crazy. The kids in junior high and high school were not as focused as I was. Um, and then I got to university football and realized, well, everybody was like this, or the majority, but none of them had any fun, and neither did I. I'm like, well, that's not working either. And so then there was the flip side of me as the goofball athlete, and the goofball athlete just went and completely clowned around and had a lot of fun. And then I learned that like those moments where I merged the two was like super relentless, super focused, and having fun at the same time. I'm like, whoa, this is where it's at. And recognizing that as a coach, as a human, when I was like that, was also, I thought, where I showed up the best. Um, so that was a little they are kind of paradoxical in a way, but they don't have to be.
This
I
resonates
yeah.
this resonates super strongly with me, and sometimes I'll talk about sublime and ridiculous, and the ability to deliver both in you know in the session room, or or even in my show. And I think it's, we say have fun is one of the things. It's right up there in terms of objectives of how we want to run the day. And sometimes you need it to be able to just take the edge off what can be sometimes something that sounds or feels or appears too brittle. But as you're talking, the phrase, or the two words with a little hyphen, that popped into my mind was self-awareness.
Mm,
You got to know thyself. You've got to know yourself to know where the balance is, where the mix is, when to push, when to pull, when too much is too much. And that can take a lifetime to master, if at all.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why I'm so excited to do the work that I do and taking the leadership role with NEOS worldwide. I was asked to lead the expert community. I'm like, oh my God, like who am I to lead this group of superstars? Um, but maybe I can help and serve the organization in my unique way. And to me, I'm really inspired about being able to, the lifelong journey of becoming a master coach, facilitator, teacher. I don't think I'm ever going to be done, and that excites me. And yeah, I don't think we ever fully master it. That's why, anyways, so I'm with you there. But I think it's a fascinating journey to explore. And I was in session yesterday with a client, and the guy came up to me on one of the breaks. He's like, "Chris, can I ask you a question?" I'm like, "Of course." He's like, "How can you sit and listen to us and like we just spent 2 hours on one topic without going crazy? Like you have the patience of a saint." And I'm like, "Well, I appreciate that, but they had just acquired a new business. They're in their second quarterly, so they're about 8 months in. And they just acquired a new company and they needed to have a conversation around the accountability chart. And how do we integrate these two organizations to make them run seamlessly together?" And that is a hard conversation. And so I told him, I said, like, um, I know how important this conversation is to your organization. If you can't get the right structure, this is going to cause a cascade of issues, of things gone wrong if you don't figure this out. And so it's going to be messy to figure it out. And so it's not a linear problem solved. This is not a simple thing. And I know how important this is for you. And so I was really engaged in listening to you and facilitating just little bits with you over the last 2 hours. And I guess at the end of the day, I said it was empathy of like, I know you and your team and what's at stake here. And I am so engaged and all in on what's happening. And he's like, huh, okay, cool. And definitely my evolution as a coach was like, it doesn't have to be about me. It's really understanding what my client needs, or if it's a coaching situation, what the human needs, and just being with them on that journey to discovering where they need to go next.
You know, there's another red thread or common theme, and that is all about journey, right? We talk about the
Yeah.
journey to mastery, your journey through the mountains. Your adventures, even your adventures now when you are, pursuing your other passions. And then there's the journey that our clients go through. Um, let's go back to even this idea of the expert implementer. I'll join you as an expert implementer in about 10 to 20 years if I ever get my shit together. But you know, we're always learning. We're lifelong learners. We have to be. We have to be curious. Einstein died with a pencil in his hand, just to keep learning. And so I think about the two things that I want to just discuss with you, because I think this is a good time to bring it in. One of the things you wanted to talk about is leveraging your unique ability in new ways.
Yeah.
And we could take this in so many interesting directions. First, I'm going to ask you, Chris Jones, what is your unique ability? And the context for people that are watching is we use a phrase sometimes: delegate and elevate to your unique ability, which is a Dan Sullivan term. So what is your unique ability, and when did you discover it?
Yeah, it took me a while to figure it out. Um, Unique ability is the confluence of what you're great at and what do you love to do, and the two things together, we're more creative, we're more innovative in this space. The work gives us energy versus steals our energy. And so, like a shirt, I tried on a few different things and nothing ever seemed to quite fit. And so I tried a few things on. I wrote it on the wall off to my left here, and I'd look at it every now and then. This isn't quite there. And eventually I landed on I'm a relentless and fun mindset shifter who empowers growth. And, that's just the way I show up. And when I'm operating there, like I'll walk out of an 8-hour session like fired up. And sometimes for the two, like maybe I didn't even talk barely for 2 hours, and that's okay. I know I'm in that, that special place where I'm meant to be.
So let's talk about mindset, the
Yes.
ability to, because, and I'm even thinking in context of what it is to be an expert implementer or someone that's been a coach for 10 plus years. One of the things that I was surprised, and maybe I shouldn't have been surprised, is how we're all battling with our own demons. We're all battling, with our mind. What's that? What's that quote? I think from the book Shine, with Rob Dubay and Gino Wickman, which is my mind is a dangerous place or a dog place. I wouldn't go there alone, or something like that. So let's
Yeah.
talk about mindset for a second. Level set for a
Yeah.
moment. We talk about abundance and scarcity and and limiting, etc.
Yeah.
What are the challenges? What is this idea of mindset, and that we're all faced with?
Yeah. Oh, this is a fantastic or fascinating topic because I think what is that? I can't remember who said it. The most important conversations we're ever going to have in life are those that we have with ourselves.
Mm.
And so our ability to manage our internal narrative, I think, is one of the most important things to success in life, not just in business, everywhere. In the recognition of the fact that it is 100% normal to go to the places of abundance and scarcity, there's not enough. And it takes intentional effort to shift gears into the concept of like everything from a distance is funny. Like maybe we don't need to take ourselves so seriously. This too will be okay and maybe even amazing. And can we shift from like, oh, this is happening to us versus what in this is happening for us? And it's hard to make that transition sometimes. I've found and that I've experienced with other leaders. And I've also seen other people that I've seen in life that never make that transition. They're always living in abundance and scarcity. There's never enough. Things are always happening to them. And they're kind of perpetually in that victim place that you mentioned earlier. Versus, can we shift gears into the creator? Right? We can all play different roles in that drama triangle. And so can we look at the brilliance? Like I lost 70% of my business overnight. And everyone around me was like, oh my God, Chris, this is so terrible. And for a very short period of time, I was there. But I had this incredible mentor that helped me through that experience, Peter Porches. And he helped me through. He'd been there exactly where I'd been. And he's like, it's going to be okay. Rip the Band-Aid off, get through this as quick as possible so that you can start looking in the the windshield versus the rearview mirror. How can you get rid of the bad stuff quickly so that you can start building the future again? And so I spent about 2 weeks in pain in overcoming that, and it was a dark period. I was like, "How am I gonna feed my family? How am I gonna pay for my house? Like, am I gonna lose that? Do we shut the business down? Do I have to lay everybody off?" Like, all this stuff. It was a tough spot. But pretty quickly, I got through the dark stuff and released the past from it. I could have gone lawsuits and all this other garbage, and the coaching I got was let it go, move forward, let it go. And I did. And I started looking and creating the new going forward, and it was one of the most energizing experiences of my life. And people would see me, "Chris, oh my God, I heard about the thing, and that's so bad. I'm so sorry." And I'm like, "Oh, well, I don't know about bad. I'm having the time of my life right now." And they would look at me like I'd lost it. Like, I think this guy needs some medication and fairly strong stuff. Um, but I was genuinely having an incredible time in the creation of the new future the way that I wanted it. And it released 70% of our revenue and 90% of our headaches. And so there was a huge gift in recreating the business the way that we as a team wanted to build it, the way I wanted to build it, and an incredible team of people around me, the few that could remain. We had to really pare it down and lay some people off, and that sucked. Even they were graceful in the exit. I'd be like, I told them all the news. I remember the room vividly still. And I'm like, "Hey, look, it happened. We lost these guys. Our major supplier is gone, and immediately." And everyone was like, "Whoa." And the one lady piped up and she said, "Does that mean we're out of work?" And I'm like, "Unfortunately, yes." Um, and I said, "I'm so sorry." And young Mi is her name, and she said, "Chris, oh, don't worry. I'll get another job. I'm worried about you, Chris. This is your baby. Like, are you gonna be okay?"
Hmm.
And I was just like floored by that response. Um, you know,
You know,
that she cared enough. Yeah.
you spoke about this idea of managing the internal dialogue or the narrative. Sometimes we might talk about the voices in our head, the noise, the distraction. And as you were talking, I was thinking and making a connection between there is an inner and an outer voice. Um,
Yeah.
there is, and maybe the problem we have is that we mismatch or we're not aligned between the inner and the outer voice. And what I mean by that is when something is it's what we bottle and what we repress and or what we exaggerate when someone asks us how we're doing, we either completely lie and everything's great, it's never been better, or the exact opposite, which is the trauma dump, and being too vulnerable and too
Yeah.
naked and transparent. And it just strikes me that when you can actually create equilibrium or alignment between the inner and the outer, that has to be the definition of peace.
It's, I mean, authenticity, right, is what you're speaking of. And everyone says authenticity is great. Yeah. Until you do the overshare in a cocktail situation and they're just like, "Whoa, that was too much." Right. And so, um, yeah, understanding context and, having that peace between the inner voice and the outer. Um, yeah, I think where do we go with this? This is quite the rabbit hole.
Well,
There's so many different things right around this. So
I got to play. I've got a little path to to go down, which is there are many people that espouse you do, I do, this idea of these are not the things that happen to us, these are the things that happen for us, that every situation, you know, uh, I'm doing a cohort now, positive intelligence, right? The judge of circumstance says every
Yep.
bad circumstance can be, turned into something positive. What do you say to someone who actually just is skeptical, is jaded, does not believe, and is not open to this idea of a mindset shift? Or put differently, is it possible that a mindset shift in this particular case uh, doesn't work or cannot work for everyone?
Oh, I 100% don't believe it is going to work for everybody. And I think as a coach, pulling it back to parenting, I've had my oldest son is neurodiverse, wonderful kid. He's taught me so much. And I could see him struggling with certain things over his lifetime. And I'm like, hey, like, would you like some coaching here? Because I've been guilty of uninvited coaching a lot in my lifetime, and that isn't always well received. Um, so I learned with him, I'm like, hey, just so you're aware, like I can see you're in pain. Yeah, I am. Um, I don't know if you know, like I'm a professional coach. I help people through tough things. I could coach you on this. Would you like help? And he's like, I don't know. And I also asked him, like, do you want to make it better? And he said, I don't know. And then I said, it was really hard for me to say, okay, well then reach out to me when you're ready for help. And that was heartbreaking as a dad to see him in so much challenge. But until he was ready to move forward, I don't think that conversation would have done anything good. So he was not ready for a mindset shift. Um, he's since been diagnosed on the spectrum, in addition to a coordination disorder, ADHD, and anxiety disorder, all this shit that he's got to deal with. Life is more challenging for him than the average human. Um, but it taught me as a coach, if they're not ready for the mindset shift, if they don't want it, then don't go there. To say, oh, there's the silver lining, what's happening for you right now. When they're in the shit, they do not want to have that conversation. Most people do not want to have that conversation. They are not ready for mindset shift. Sometimes they just need to be hugged. Like, do you need to be heard, helped, or hugged? It's like sometimes people just need to be heard. Sometimes they just need to be hugged. Not everybody's ready to be helped. And so understanding the difference of when to go where as a coach is, kind of getting, I think, at what you're asking.
Yeah, I mean, I love for me, this is, and for people that are watching, it's a masterclass in awareness and self-awareness. Um, and what I take away from this is that, and I've certainly picked this up from other expert coaches within EOS, is every single time you walk into a session room, you don't know what you're going to expect. You probably feel hopelessly underprepared. You're suffering from imposter syndrome. There is that little bit of doubt or self-doubt. I think in a way that's probably what keeps us alive. That prevents us from becoming machines and being so rote. The fact that there's always,
Yeah.
just, as we say, our clients are snowflakes. Boy, are they snowflakes. And so are we.
Yeah. Yeah. It's how are we showing up every day? So I've learned related to that, there's this piece like the self-awareness, self-confidence, right, is a big part of being a coach. And we talk about humble confidence, right? So how do we find and strike that balance between that paradox? And so walking that line of humility and confidence is one that we get to walk and get the privilege of walking with our clients. And so confidence is sort of sometimes a factor of external factors. Do we have dramatic events going around on in our world? Sometimes they're completely out of our control that are impacting our state of mind. And so, of course, our confidence is going to go down if we get fired by a client, or it's not the right time for a handful of clients in a row that we're trying to land, or maybe that's a world of coaching as an entrepreneur, as a leader. Maybe there's all these bad things. Maybe it's a personal thing that's going on, like our kid is having big problems getting bullied at school or something, and we're unable to help them, and that's going to impact our confidence negatively. Often it's just the human experience. So what I've learned is, what can we control? And so those things in our control, if we take the actions that build confidence, that build humility, then we put ourselves to be in a position to be more successful than not.
I think we just lost him for a second, but I'm going to wait for him to come back. There he is.
Whoa, I dropped you.
I was just taking it all in, and I was like, even if it just stopped right there. And by the way, it's Chris, at the beginning of this journey, when I started this, when COVID hit and something like that would happen, I would fall apart. I would fall to pieces. Why did this happen to me? Like this, I could never recover. And I have to say, and we're almost at an hour. One of the questions I sometimes ask of guests on this show is, looking back along your journey, going back to the journey, what have you learned about yourself? What have you learned about life? How have you changed? My sense with you is there's just this amazing sense of centeredness, grounding, calm, and peace. And I feel peaceful. I feel like I've just been, for a day at the spa treatment. That's what you've given me. That's the gift you've given me today.
Well, I appreciate the feedback. That's very meaningful to me. I'm challenging with I think I have my own challenges every day. I don't think any different than probably you do. And anyways, I can just speak for myself. I have my own internal narrative and things that I'm dealing with on a regular basis. But I take the actions that intentionally, I believe I'm going to get through all the challenges. I believe that if I take the actions and put good things into my brain, that I can recover, and that I'll overcome the challenge in which I'm faced with. And then I also have the ability to, like, oh, I lost a couple clients. Well, that sucks. But what's good in this? And the good in this, it creates opportunities for me to go and help my other businesses and the other people around me in a way that wasn't possible when my schedule was jam-packed. I'm like, that's amazing. This is a total gift. And I'm able to make that transition quicker, because I for sure go to the negative frequently. And it happens for sure.
Well, for those people that are watching, here you have two humans that have been able to that have connected. It was funny. I came up to you at our annual conference, and I was like, "Okay, it's the great Chris Jones," and you're like, "Oh, Joseph Jaffe." Like, I think I've heard of you or your show, and I'm like, "Would you like to come on?" You're like, "Yeah, I'd like to come on," and it was
Yeah.
kind of like surreal in the sense, which is two people coming together. One is an expert, one is a professional, but those are just names. At the end of the day, the ability
Yeah.
to really connect and be there for one another, and know that there is now more context the next time that we meet IRL, which who knows might be next week at our at in Detroit, or at least that's where I'll be.
Yeah.
It was a day when white smoke appeared from the chimney of the Sistine Chapel, and you might be in the woods, camping out and seeing a log cabin with white smoke coming out of a chimney where Chris Jones is cooking a meal. I'm just trying to draw the weirdest and probably most inappropriate comparison. But as I said, there's sublime, there's ridiculous. We make it up as we go along. You are relentless and and I am, I don't know, crazy as fuck. Oh, I forgot about that as well. Chris Jones, if you want to get in contact with him, you can connect with him on LinkedIn. You will see all these amazing photos of him out in the wild. You can email him. You can go to Relentless Chris Jones. And tell us, by the way, about your son's business, Trey's business.
Yeah.
Give us a little heads up.
Sure. So he's 18 years old, and we started at 6 months. He was 17 when we started. And you talk about leveraging unique ability as my ability to help other people start businesses. And I'm really having fun with that, really teaching them to be the leaders. I have very little role in the active day to day. But it was Gooder AI, but we got a cease and desist on that name apparently. So we're helping companies. The short of it is we're helping companies implement chatbots. We have a very good platform. And so we're just looking for our first clients to demo this stuff. But we've got a good platform, and now we're helping him. He's having the conversations with leaders of like, hey, can we help you with this solution? And so, yeah, I guess if anyone is interested, more than happy to have to hook you with him, to connect you with him and make an intro for you to demo the stuff that we're doing. And we're doing a 60-day free trial with the chatbots with no obligation to stay, but to get that business off the ground, it's quite exciting.
Is his email still TJ@GooderAI?
Yeah, TJ@GooderAI.com is his email. Oh, thank you very much. And we're more than happy to, man, he's a sharp kid. That's we've got a pretty cool thing happening there. I'm having so much fun. You talk about that, yeah.
Use AI for chatbots, use humans for coaches, and between the two, you will be good enough. Chris Jones, real pleasure to get to know you, intimately across the virtual, in this virtual environment, and I look forward to giving you a big hug. You spoke about heard, helped, or hugged. Initially, I heard it as hurt, and I was like, well, I'm definitely going to choose help or hug, not hurt.
But heard as in the ear, yeah.
No, I know,
yeah.
but I'll take what I can get. And it was a real pleasure. And look forward to hearing more about your journey, you hearing about mine, and us being on that journey together.
I appreciate it. Well, so fun having you. Like you say, the designations are just a title, and we don't love titles in EOS. So
no, we don't. We love accountability.
I appreciate the work you're doing. Yeah, it's no different. No different. I'm just crazy enough to have done it a little longer than you. That's all. But we all have our cool life experiences. Yeah.
I'm going to keep doing it until I get a beard like you. So I will see you soon, my friend. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
We're the ones who dare to dream. We won't let anyone hold us back. We'll take the road, let's travel by and build our empire piece by piece. We've got our dreams and we've got a plan. We're not afraid to take a stand. We'll face the risks and embrace the fear, cause we know that success is near. There will be times when we'll fall down, but we'll get up and turn it around. We're entrepreneurs, we're not afraid to lose. We'll keep moving forward, we got nothing to prove.